Hello and welcome to Aspects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, although I'm really not today. Cynthia De Boer and Temple Kinyon are here today to interview me, which is a big twist. So I'm going to let them take over. And ladies, who would like to start?
Well, my name is Temple, as James said, and I would like to ask James a little bit about himself.
Okay.
Why are we here today for 1 Million Books in 100 Days.com?
Well, 1 Million Books in 100 Days is a new concept that we're trying out to basically elevate self-published authors. As we all know, there's like 700,000 new titles published every year, and it's very difficult to get discovered as a self-published author. So I thought, well, if we come up with something that's going to make people stand out, obviously we can't do it for thousands of authors, but the idea was to start the process with a few authors, like maybe 20, and then every time we do the campaign, add a few more. And the premise of that, or the idea behind that, is that if we can elevate each of those authors to where they have a fan base or a following, and they bring them to our website, when we add the new authors on, they'll also be discovered by that fan base, we hope. So it's an experiment. We really don't know how it's going to work, but that's kind of what the premise behind it is.
You also are doing this twice a year.
Yes.
Which is great. And the other benefit that I think is just phenomenal is that a portion of every book sale goes to a specific charity. Can you tell us about the charities?
Well, right now we have Three Square, which is part of the Feed America food bank system. And we actually give $1 for every book sold to charities. Now, they're not the only charity. You know, we also have the Society of St. Stephen's, which feeds the homeless and clothes the homeless, and you know they do a lot as well. But the idea behind that is that part of the proceeds will go to the bigger organizations, and then a smaller portion of the money we collect for the charities, the $1 for each book sold, We'll make sure some of the smaller charities get something as well. Obviously, the bigger charities that are nationwide are going to need more of our donation. So that's how we will be determining that.
Great. So, where did this idea originate?
All right.
You got 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
I originally came up with the idea because I am a published author. I have 4 books out now, actually 5. And I thought, I need to sell books. But the competition's too fierce, like we talked about. So I thought, what if I go out there and I start a campaign for me to sell 1 million books? Then I thought, that's a little egotistical to think you're going to sell 1 million books. So I thought, what if I get some of my people that I know, some friends? You know, almost everybody that's on here is someone that I know or have met through someone else. So it's not like I didn't pick and choose. I don't want people to think that, because a few authors think, oh, how come you didn't ask me? And to be honest with you, it's the people that I've probably known longer, or they just came to mind. And then once I reached a certain number, I thought, okay, well, next time I'll go around, I'll ask even more. So it isn't anything personal. It's just, it is what it is. A few people have been referred to me by others, and the reason they were chosen, like you, Temple, is because of the genre of the books. Like, I wanted to have diversity because there's only a few authors on there. I didn't want 20 books all being science fiction. I wanted diversity in what we have, so when we bring people there, if they have children, they might be interested in children's book, but if they're interested in drama, they'll find something that's dramatic. So that was the reason behind choosing different authors. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a personal thing. It was more strategy.
Right. And you do have a lot of genres available. A lot.
Yes, I think we have something like 24 categories, something like that.
Yeah, and there are authors that are what they call genre hoppers, which are basically people that have books in different genres. And you do as well. You have science fiction, you also have children. And I think that really helps people understand that, an author isn't just a one-trick pony kind of thing, that they can actually go on there and see. And the other thing that I love about the 1millionbooksin100days.com website is that there is a photo of that author. There is a short bio. And, that helps the readers that maybe not, they'll go there because their friend is an author, but then they discover everyone else. And I think that's really a phenomenal thing because as indie authors, a lot of times we're not looked at in as high a standard as maybe someone that goes through a big house to be published.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives authors a real good chance of really being in the limelight. And as one of the authors on there, I think every author, and I know Temple feels the same way, we are in such gratitude to you because we know it was a lot of work. Can you kind of give us a backstory on what this all took? Because, a lot of people think, oh, 5 minutes, you put up a website, you're good to go. And we need to really understand what work goes into this.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to do that, but I also like to. Well, okay, let me just do that, and then I'll go back to something else. Really, what it is that when you submit your book, first of all, we had to do contracts with each author to get permission to sell their books for them. Then we actually ship. So my requirement was that the authors give me X amount of books so we can ship on demand. So literally, if someone orders a book today, I can send it out tomorrow. So they should have it within a few days. That's one of the things. Well, now, what else did you ask me? My mind just started going in many different directions.
Well, all the work then and the time and
Oh.
energy that went into this, because
Well-
it's not free. I mean, your time is valuable, much less, the cost of building a website and
The shopping cart.
the shopping cart and all of those things.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I want to talk about too. Is you had mentioned, the author's bios. Just so everyone knows, on the shopping cart, the author's bio is not there, but there is a link you can click on to go read about the author's bio on aspectsofwriting.com and also now on sharedspacetocreate.com or quirkymindsmedia.com. If you click on either one of those, Quirky Minds Media or sharedspacetocreate.com, there'll be a tab there that says 1 million books in 100 days. And that has all the authors listed on our site and their bio. So you know something about who they are and what else they've done. When it comes to building the site, that's part of what was building the site, was putting everyone's information out there. In addition to that, we had to go in and we had to construct the shopping cart. And basically that entailed putting everyone's book on there, getting their pictures for the books, and and then you have to go in and put the pricing in, and each one of those sections is different. So there's a lot to building that book on the website. And that's one of the reasons why I want to leave the books there when we do our campaigns and add, if they're willing to leave their book on there, it just gives them another outlet to sell their books. It's not like they lose anything because it doesn't cost them anything to be there. And then that way, we always have that, because it's a lot of work to take someone off and then if they want back on, have to go back and reconstruct all that again. So there is a lot to this. And I think you know that, Cynthia. You've been helping with this for quite some time. And Temple, you've been helping with the advertisement. So, there's a lot more to it than just saying, here's my book, put it on there. Far more than that. I don't even know. I don't want to go into a lot of details. So.
Well, it is a lot of work. And I think that the one point that you just made was that this does not cost the author anything. And the other side of it is the royalty that you get from selling your book, even with helping the charity out, is higher than what you're going to get through a Barnes & Noble and Ingram Sparks, Amazon. And I think that that's really, phenomenal too, because, royalties are all we get.
Right. The average author, because here's the way it works. We charge a flat fee of $3 for each book placed on our site. $1 goes to charity, $1 goes to helping with promotions and advertisement, which you don't get that with any other site. And then the other dollar goes to the company to help with what we're doing. And so you've got to think about how there's advantages there you wouldn't have if you were to go to Amazon. I mean, all of our books are mainly there probably, but we're trying to figure out how can we get the most out of our money. So if I'm only charging $3 per book, and let's say it costs you $3 to manufacture your book, that's $6, okay? If you put it on our site and you're selling a book for $15.95, you're making $9 per book. So because our customers pay for shipping, you don't pay for shipping, and now we have a little handling fee there as well. So you wouldn't even come close to making that kind of royalty on any of the other sites. On average, I would say most of the authors are making anywhere from $2 to $5 more per book on this site than they would through Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Ingram Spark, which is Lightning Source if you POD. So those are the advantages, and I think I don't know if the audience needs to know that, but maybe it would help them understand that if you really want to see an author succeed, then go to our site because they're making more money. The more money an author makes, the better it is for them, because when they're doing their next book project, it helps them pay for things like their book covers. It helps them pay for editing. All those things it helps with.
Right. As self-published authors, that does add up.
Yeah. So that's the whole reason behind that is we want to help the authors as much as we can. Everybody wins in this. Think about it. We're helping with donations or charity. We're helping the authors. And then we're creating a unique outlet that before now hasn't really been out there for the self-published authors.
Right.
Amazon, obviously, and Barnes & Noble embrace self-published authors. You can go there and publish on KDP. You can publish on, Book Nook. You can publish on Ingram Spark. But they don't promote you unless you pay for it. Unless you're doing really well with sales, and then they will elevate you to a certain plateau. But we all know how rare that is, Finding your audience is the most difficult part of it.
Right, right. So, do you want to talk about the books that you have out on 1,000,000books and 100days.com?
All right. Well, just for fun, I still have, out of 5,000 copies that I printed in 1995 of my first novel, because back then you had to publish a large amount in order to get a decent price.
Right.
I think I still have about 180 books left. So those 180 books are available. They're first edition books, and they'll be signed by me. That's available. It's called The Emblem. It was a government espionage. And then my second book was The Alien Transcripts. It's gone through a couple of versions, but the newest Alien Transcripts is available. That's a science fiction. And then I have The Purple Caterpillar, which is a children's book that deals with bullying. And then I also have my latest book, which just came out day before yesterday, is
My Red Soaks.
not the Red Socks,
My Red Soaks.
which is a take on this little kid who spills water and his socks soak up the water and he wants to call his socks red soaks. His mother tries to explain to him, no, they're wet socks. And he says, but they soaked up water, so why, and they're red, why wouldn't they be called red soaks? She finally gives in and says, okay, they're red soaks. The whole idea behind that, and that's going to be a series of books, is to encourage children to use their imagination. Instead of squelching their imagination and say, you cannot do that, you cannot call them that. As we grow older, we know what's right and what's wrong, and we know the correct way of saying something. But as a child, it's hard to wrap your mind around things sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with using your imagination and calling it whatever you want. So, people have imaginary friends all the time. They name their dolls or their toys. There's nothing wrong with it. So that's what that whole series is going to be about. And there'll always be a different episode with a character named Caleb.
Oh, great.
And then Cynthia and I have a book that's on there as well.
Yes.
We have one. You want to talk about it?
Well, it is Writing and Publishing Made Simple, and we've done a few seminars on that. And basically, what we've done is we've taken all of the mistakes and the monies that we should not have spent, and we've used all of that knowledge to help other authors so that they don't make those mistakes. It also is very, very concise as far as what do you need. The problem with being an indie author is that there are a lot of companies out there that basically feed off of an author's passion, and they sell you things that you don't need, that you find out later are useless. One tragedy that I experienced was I was told I had to purchase 2,500 books before one of the major distributors would even look at my book. I found out later, obviously this was untrue, then they charged me for storage, then they charged me for shipping the books to me. And, when we talk about these things and what you can and cannot do or should and shouldn't do, it really does help. The books are very, very full of information. If you want to know anything. And James and I are always available too to email, ask a question, and it's just a really wonderful way for others to not have to make the mistakes that we've gone through and made through the years. And it really is a Bible.
Well,
You
there's
know, if
two
you
versions
use
out
these.
there.
Right.
There's the one version that's just the book itself, A Simple Guide to Writing
Simple
and
book.
Publishing. And that one's 29 pages. It's like she said, it's very concise, but it literally takes you from the very first step you need to take all the way to the end to get published. Not just get published, but even the writing process if you're uncertain of yourself. And then it takes you all the way to establishing yourself as a publisher with your own ISBN and setting up your own company, which most self-published authors today, that's what they do. So it literally has a checklist in there. And then when it comes to another version, there's a bigger version in there that's an actually 3-hole punch book that you would get in a binder. And that not only has that book in it, but it also has examples of doing a press release. It has 11 examples of how you can market your book separate from what's in the Simple Guide to Publish. And then it also has all the radio stations that you can go to for interviews, not only in the United States but worldwide. It also has an EIN writing style guidebook that is free that's also included in this, and that's over 100 pages. It's kind of like there's like 3 different styles of writing. Chicago style is the one most people know of, but the EIN is also one by the U.S. government. So there's a lot more to that than just the Simple Guide to Writing and Publishing. But either version's there, because one's only like $12.95 or whatever, and the other one's $39.95. So it depends on what you need and what you want. If you don't need all that other information right now or don't want to be bogged down with it, then maybe you just want to go with the Simple Guide. There's also even a work page in the bigger one where you can actually write down ideas and stuff on how to start and format and create your book and what you need to be looking for. It's literally like a workbook type thing that's in there. So there's a lot more to that one. We use that on our seminar. We always give
Exactly.
one free with our seminars.
Well, I love the fact that 1,000,000books in 100days.com is for self-published authors, and you guys have made it sounds like a great resource for people who are maybe wanting to become that, but they're just unsure of themselves, and you walk them through it. So that's great.
Well, it's
I
great
have
that you
to get
guys
my
are
copy.
interviewing me, but also you're both part of this. So I think, why don't we give us a little bit of your background, Temple, and what you've written.
My book is called The Button Boxes, and it's my first book, and it is about Andy, who is loves football. He's a typical kid, and he receives a couple of old wooden boxes and filled with old buttons from his Grandma Lois on his 12th birthday, which he's like, what do you want me to do with this? Because what do boys do with boxes and buttons? And she explains that these buttons have stories to tell him about his family and his history and roots, and that all he has to do is sleep with these buttons and they'll reveal their stories. And he thinks that she's pretty much crazy, that she's lost her marbles. And so he's very cynical about it. But Andy has this great relationship with Grandma Lois. He's very loyal, loves her a lot. And so he's, maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of guilt, he decides to investigate these buttons. And when his Grandma Lois is struck ill with a mysterious, ailment and rushed to the hospital, he is put in a situation where he needs to know whether the buttons are part of the process of trying to save her, or maybe it's too late. So it's an adventure, originally written for sort of like 8 to 13-year age group, the middle grade, but it's great for anybody. You can use it as a bedtime story and read your kids, or, it's just kind of an easy read for an adult reader too.
Yeah. And Cynthia, why don't you tell us about your books and who
Okay.
you are?
Well, the first book is Me, Myself, and I, which is EYE, and it's about the realities of living with a prosthetic eye, which I've had since I was 17, and that's part of, I really wanted to let people know, because there's not a lot of information out there about what do you do, what do you expect, the phantom pain. No one ever told me about that. When I lost my eye, it was 1977, and there's nothing in a library about that, and still to this day there isn't a whole lot. And this book came about because I was in my ocularist office, who are the people that produce eyes, And I heard a woman that was really upset about the loss of her eye. And basically, I thought, this woman she was elderly, but she was, dynamite lady. And after just going out and talking to her for a few minutes and sharing some of what I had gone through, it made me know that this book was necessary. From that, unbeknownst to me, and a lot of writers are going to find this out, you can't just write it and magically you become, Angela Lansbury, which, one little murder mystery and you're
Right.
traveling the world. So you do have to promote. And when I started promoting this, I got a lot of feedback from people talking about other disabilities. So I wrote a second book, which is Freedom from Depression, no matter what your disability may be. And that is a 5-part book, and it does have an area in there where each person can actually find out how truly magnificent they are, because we can all sit there and say, oh, James is wonderful, Temple's a doll, and I'm nothing, So, but we do that. We're really our own worst enemies. And so I wanted to have an area in there where people could really discover how important they are and to relieve them from the depression, because anytime you have a disability, you do go through a bit of a grieving process. Of course, it's not as severe as when you lose a person, even a pet for that matter, but you do go through that. And then the third one, which I love, is Jimmy's Magic Turtle. And this was a story. It was just kind of a curiosity when you said about children's imagination. This is really what this built on, was my sister and I had a pet turtle. And he would always tuck his legs and arms and everything into his little shell. And we're like, what goes on inside there? It was just kind of a curious thing. So our imaginations ran wild, and it was always just something fun. And my sister lost her son. And so this was a tribute to him.
Yeah.
And it's for little kids. We know that little Jimmy probably passed from the Marfan syndrome. And so there is a portion of that book that goes to the Marfan. The Me, Myself, and I, a portion of that goes to the National Federation of the Blind. What I do is for passion, and I really believe that most authors out there, it's about their passion. It's about what they want to do. And having this site, someplace free to actually get out there and say, hey, what I wrote is worth reading, come see it, is just monumental. It really is.
And I think you just hit on something too, in that a lot of authors who are self-published, I would say the majority, they're not doing it to necessarily be, we all dream of being, a famous author and selling 1 million or 2 million books. But the reality is we know that probably won't happen. But we certainly want to share our stories,
Right.
and I think, I know from my very first novel that came out in 1995, I just shared with you, it hadn't even sold 5,000 copies. But the thing is that, it didn't stop me from continuing and writing more and putting more out there. And I'm telling you right now, I have many, many more still to go that I've created. And I do want to plug our other company, which is the company that produces the show, which is Quirky Minds Media, because we actually started that a few months ago, and we actually will be producing movies. We started a movie this last week. So, there's a lot coming up with Quirky Minds Media. We have 2 other movies in the works as well that we're going to be putting together this next week and hopefully start production on those simultaneously. So there's a lot to Quirky Minds Media, and you will find out about 1 million books in 100 days when you click into quirkymindsmedia.com. So go there, and you can also check out 1millionbooksin100days.com.
Great.
All right.
Great. Where do you find the time, James?
Well, long days,
Passion.
a lot of
drives
hours.
ya.
Right. Yeah, and 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And you do also have the radio shows.
And we have the
that's,
radio shows.
You know, aspects of writing, which is really great, where he interviews other authors.
Right.
And then, the other 2 that you're currently working on getting going
Right.
again.
Maybe I
There's
can
a
get you
lot.
guys to help me with those 2. We started Senior Aspects a little over a year ago, and we also started The Common Thread a little over a year ago. But with everything that's going on, it is hard to be a host of 3 radio shows and do the other projects. So, I'm looking for people. But yeah, I would like to continue with those as well. Senior Aspects, I think, is a great idea because of the fact it deals with senior issues. And not just necessarily the serious side of it, but also the more fun side, the travel side, things that seniors do that are often fun, or give people ideas. I mean, we've interviewed authors who started in their late 60s
Yeah.
writing their first book.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much that people can do when they retire. They don't even. Sometimes it's a godsend that when not only when you retire, but even during this pandemic. This is an opportune time for people right now, no matter who you are or what age you are, to be writing.
Yeah.
If that's your passion, this is a great time. You've got the time, and no need to worry about finances. That's not going to change if you're in a situation. So you might as well start writing. Take
Right.
that energy and put it to good use.
Well, that's the other thing. With me, I had an organizational consulting and cleaning business a long time ago. And, everybody's doing that. I mean, we went out front and a couple was walking by the front of our house one day and oh, how you doing? Our yard has never looked better. That was the comment because, people are at home
Yeah.
and they're doing more. And, we have what's called a heavy pickup every other week where the trashmen come. I am not kidding you. I have never seen so much stuff out there because
Yeah.
people are just
Cleaning house.
cleaning house. You
Yeah.
got it. So that's led me to, I'm working on another book that will be freeing space in your mind, home, and office.
Yeah.
And
Great.
then that will become a seminar. So,
I saw you look around my office here as we were
Yeah.
talking. The back side of this is my office.
but it is good to be able to, once you retire, look back on the things that you've done in your life and use
Right.
them as inspiration.
Yeah.
Maybe you were a pipe fitter, maybe you were a dentist, maybe. But there's always something that you can share with the lay person. Or, here's the thing. Not all books are fictional. You can write non-fictional books
Absolutely.
and
Right,
teach
right.
somebody something.
Memoir is a great genre.
Yeah.
It really
You
is.
can share everything, and you're right. This is a great time for people to maybe reassess where they're at and write it down. And even if you don't have the dollar contract through a big publisher, think of who that would enjoy knowing your story,
Right.
So,
And the other show that we definitely are going to be starting up again is The Common Thread. And The Common Thread basically is supposed to be something that I want to take from the perspective as a worldwide situation that deals with prejudices and misunderstandings, really, of cultures. And the idea is to find the common ground.
interesting.
So that one we've got a few shows we've done already that are up, but I really want to start getting that on a regular basis, going on a regular basis as well. And I think this is the time for it. We really need to
Yeah.
have more unity in the world. And finding that common ground, I think, is one of the ways of doing it. Instead of,
I agree.
Well, we're running out of time. Our shows are now down to 30-minute shows instead of the 1 hour we used to do. So I guess I'd like to say, Temple, thank you for interviewing me. Cynthia, thank you for interviewing me. And Temple, I know we can find your books on 1 Million Books in 100 Days, but do you have an author's web page or website?
I do. It's just my name, TempleKinyon.com. And it has information about my book and the next book I'm writing, which is my dad's memoir. Maybe a few little teasers for another button boxes in the series. I have some magazine articles and stuff out there in my bio. So yeah, anybody can go out and get to know me that way. You can even send me a comment or an email. Be nice. And I'll get back with you if you're interested in knowing more.
Okay, and Cynthia?
Same thing. It's Cynthia De Boer, and it is also a .com.
So
And
Cynthia,
Cynthia. Middle initial is L, like in Leo. Last name is De Boer, DE, capital BOER. And the thing is that on my site, I also have an area that is called Stories from the Open Heart. And I do not pay for people to submit stories, and I only accept things that are positive, that have some kind of uplifting message, nothing political or religious or anything like that. But if you are, a writer and you want to submit something to me, that would be great. It's just another way to have your stuff out there instead of shoved in a drawer somewhere. So I'm always open for that.
okay?
Great.
And then to learn more about all the authors and the books, you can go to quirkymindsmedia.com. You can go to Shared Space to Create, that's TO or the number 2.com, sharedspace2create.com. And there are links there. Or you can go straight to the shopping cart at 1millionbooksin100days.com. You can either spell it out as 1millionbooksin100days.com or put the number 1 and then million books in and then number 100days.com. So just go to any of those sites and you can learn more about what we're doing and about all of our authors. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you, James.
All right. Thank you very much.